Welcome to the B2B Brand180 Podcast, where we discuss branding and marketing tools for business. My goal today is to provide some transformative and innovative approaches for you that can help you actually make a 180-degree shift in your marketing efforts or even complete reversals in brand strategies. I'm Linda Fanaris, the owner of Millennium Agency, a branding and growth strategy firm, and the host of the B2B Brand180 Podcast. And I'm very excited to bring in Shane Barker. Shane is the CEO and founder of TraceFuse, the first Amazon TOS compliant negative review removal system. And he has over 25 years of marketing experience supporting Fortune 500 brands. He has been recognized as a leading influencer, and his recent focus is on helping Amazon sellers and businesses combat negative reviews through TraceFuse's innovative white hat solution. Welcome, Shane. It's great to have you here.
Absolutely, Linda. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So for our listeners today, I just want to let you know that you'll learn about how reputation actually shapes the buying decisions long before a sale even enters a conversation, and where brands lose control of their narrative across reviews, search results, maybe even social chatter, and then how to turn those reviews into a growth engine instead of a liability to your business, and why executives' personal reputations now actually influence a company's trust. And lastly, how to operationalize reputation tracking across teams, tools, and touch points. So Shane, we'll just get in. I'd love to ask you a few really key questions to help our audience today. Most companies think that they know their reputation, which is often different than what is online versus their corporate reputation or what they think their business reputation is. What do they usually miss when they actually do an audit?
First and foremost, I recommend that everybody do an audit, and that should be for your business name and for your personal name, right? If you're a C-level executive, then you got to make sure that your names are being cleared there too. People aren't saying funny stuff. And what I mean by that, that's not only, people that, maybe in your organization, but it's also going to be people that, maybe past employees, that could be competitors. There's a lot of things that can happen there, right? So you just got to make sure that you don't get bombarded or nothing bad happens there. And so when you run an audit, there's running an audit, which is awesome, right? Like on anything, you do this on your website or anything where you go in, you're going to take a look at it, be prepared. If you haven't ever ran an audit, it could be really great or it could not be great, right? So you got to understand that, hey, your first audit, like, if you went to the doctor for the first time, you're a little nervous, right? Like, man, it's been a little while or whatever. It's the same thing with an audit. Understand this is a starting point. If you've just started off there, obviously could be good or bad. If it is bad, then what you want to do, or even if it's good, is set up monitoring software. TraceFuse, what we do is help Amazon sellers. So we're a totally different platform. So we don't do monitoring for personal brands and for companies. We do it for reviews. But there's definitely some great softwares out there, like, there's Mention.com, there's Brand24, even Google Alerts, which isn't around as much anymore. There's definitely a lot of things where you can go and set up keywords, which would be your business name, or you can even set it up for competitors. So you can also see what's going on with your competitors. So there's a lot of good things that are happening that you can, once again, be able to have an assessment. You don't have to go and spend your first 3 hours Googling everything and seeing who said something new about you. You can get a report in the morning, you can get it at the end of the week and of the month, and then get an assessment of what that might look like. But as I said, you want to be, proactive instead of reactive, right? So the idea of this is you want to go and take a look and then continuously do an assessment, or once can have those reports sent to you so you know where you're currently at, or you're getting, daily updates or weekly updates, whatever that may be. They're going to be very, very important, because that's not only if people are saying bad things, but if people are saying good things, right? You really want to know the sentiment either way. If they're saying bad things, then you got to either look into it, see if it's valid, some due diligence that's going to need to be done there. If they're saying awesome things, guess what? That's a great opportunity to turn these people into an advocate if they're not already an advocate. Right. So thanking them, giving them discounts, those types of things of saying, hey, I didn't have to do this, but I really appreciate you saying some great things about TraceFuse or, Millennium Agency or whatever that is. Great. Then they go, hey, thank you so much. And then, offering, once again, if you turn them into an evangelist, that some good value can happen there, right? If you really, people go, wow, that's awesome, Shane or TraceFuse or Linda or whoever personally reached out to me. That's a great feeling to have, right? So it's a good thing to be able to assess and figure out where you're at.
Yeah, and where things go wrong and how to make those corrections too. Absolutely, that's a great point. So when an audit is done, there's so many different touch points, particularly on the B2C side, where you're talking about maybe product reviews or company reviews or Google My Business or even social media accounts. Can you kind of sweep through maybe some of the areas that your product does check for?
Yeah. So for TraceFuse, all we do is just Amazon based. So we
Okay.
just look at product reviews on Amazon. But as I said, like Mention.com and
Mhm.
Brand24, those are all
Right.
companies that what they'll do is they can look at all socials. They can look even sometimes what they call like not the dark web, but it's like where other people are kind
Yeah.
of, like things that are being said there. They can look at everything, right? And then really what they're doing is just a search, right? So in other words, you put in a keyword, they search the internet. If something new is brought up there, then they just bring it to you in a report and say, hey, somebody on Twitter said this, and the sentiment is X, Y, and Z. It's positive or it's negative or it's neutral. Once again, you as whoever the owner is, you don't always have to. I mean, it's good to have that information, but that also doesn't mean that you need to be the one that responds either, right? You just need to be in the know of what's going on there. And hopefully, if you have a team, then your team can respond to that and making sure they're saying the right things. And, the goal when you're responding to people, if it's negative, is to take the emotion out of it, right? We don't need to slam somebody or bash somebody. I mean, what I always tell people is this, and I tell my son the same thing. When you look at something and when you respond to it, you want to respond to it the same way that you would respond to your mother. The idea of this is like, if you can't show somebody else and be proud of what you just wrote, then you really got to think about that. So I tell people to step back a little bit. That can be a minute, 5 minutes. It could be one day. It can be have somebody else come in and say, hey, this is what I was going to write. What are your sentiments with this? Because when you put that on the internet, it's out there. There's some stories of, owners that are like, screw it, I'll say whatever I want. Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, which is fine. That's great. Your attitude is like, hey, I'll just say whatever I want. Awesome. You can also talk about politics. You can also talk about very controversial stuff. You can do whatever you want. It's your business. But I can tell you firsthand, I've seen businesses go down because of political thoughts, because of different things, right, that you put out there. And once again, if you do that, awesome. Not here to tell you that's wrong. I am telling you that you're going to be dividing things up if you do that, right? I mean, that's what you just got to be very, very careful of. And so the goal is to pull in as many people you can for your business, I'm assuming, right? Depending on what type of business you have. Obviously, if you have a Republican website, you're probably don't really care what the Democrats think, and vice versa, right? Everybody has their own thing there. But the goal of it is just to protect your brand, right? Make sure you understand what's being said out there. And then how you're going to respond to that is very, very important. You can do a deep dive into it and see if they're actually a customer. There's a lot of ways of still being very nice about things. Like, I've seen people write stuff to say, hey, John Smith, I understand you weren't real happy with our service. And I just looked you up in our database and I don't see that you were even a customer of ours. But once again, if you are a customer and we missed it, really what we're doing is we're building a little bit of doubt there, right? If you really did look into it and they're not a customer, we're not saying, hey, you're not a customer. I hate you. Screw you. What are you doing? You're trying to take my business down, because then you just look like you're a little unraveled. Right? The idea of it is still stay positive. There's still some ways to get the points across where you don't have to attack anybody. But once again, I always recommend have somebody else take a look at what, if you're a very emotional person, if you can jump into something and know that you're going to be even keeled on how you answer, maybe you don't have that problem. I can tell you, I myself, when I feel like my baby's being attacked, and my baby is my business and the things that I do, and I know how I am as an individual and how serious I take my business, and how much I care for my customers and stuff. And once again, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have some people say some funny stuff online. So I have my amazing wife that I've been with for 20 years that will come and take a look at it and say, hey, what's your vibe with this thing? Does it sound like secretive, Shane that's really mad that he's writing a comment? Or is it somebody that says, hey, that validates maybe what the experience that they went through. Hey, let's take this offline. Let's see what we can do to be able to make this right. The goal is always to take it offline, because the problem is if you're dealing with a crazy person or an ex-employee, once they start engaging and you feel like this is going in the wrong direction, you should always try to take it offline. If they want to keep it online, then you got to figure out how do you shut it down and it's not going to be healthy. You're not going to win that situation, right? If you're going back and forth and you're slamming each other. I mean, that's great if you're in, rap music and other stuff where drama brings tickets and all that, but we're not in rap music, right? So that's not what we need to do.
So when a negative review actually hits, is there a specific response strategy that actually helps protect the brand, could potentially convert that to a prospect?
Once again, being understanding if they are a customer and they did deal with that, saying, hey, listen, I'm the owner, Shane. I'm absolutely going to take a look at that and see if that was an issue. If you did have to deal with that, I absolutely apologize. Hey, why don't we talk offline? Here goes my email address. Here goes I don't know if you want to give your phone number, probably email address. And then reach out to us and let's figure out a way that we can make this experience right for you. Right? Because then you, Linda, as a consumer, read that and go, oh, he seems like a nice guy. Not every business is perfect. In fact, no business is perfect, right? Because you can ask 100 people and you could have 99 people say, hey, I think you have a perfect business, and you have somebody over here that, husband just broke up with her, or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever it is, right? Something happened. We're like, I just don't like it. Well, it is what it is. You're not going to make everybody happy, but it is nice to understand, once again, what is going to be the protocol if something comes in negative or if something comes in positive. What do we want to do? And addressing the problem, assuming there really is a problem, that's what you want to do. You want to be able to have an answer where he says, hey, totally get it. We understand, we're going to go ahead and figure this out. Look into this for you, but talk to me. Let's talk offline. So once again, we can figure out what we can do to make this right.
Okay, perfect. Should companies manage a reputation of the brand and the executives and their products all differently, or is there sort of one integrated ecosystem that they should be considering?
Everybody at the higher up that has some kind of visual contribution to the company, right? So if you're out there, then great. You want to be able to follow that and see what people are being said there. People that if you're talking to an individual or going after an individual, that's going to be a little different than if you're talking to a company, right? A company is usually faceless for the most part, right? Unless you're a company that has somebody's big old, owner's big old face on there, then that happens. But so what we look at is it'll be very similar in regards to how you respond to those. The personal one is going to be very personal, like, hey, I had this personal experience. You're the CEO, wanted to reach out to you. This is the issues that we had. Great. Make sure you address it. Still the same thing. People want to know they're being listened to. Hey, I understand what you're saying. I'm absolutely going to look into this. I really appreciate you bringing this to my attention, because at XYZ company, we take this very seriously. And once again, I will get back to you. What is your email address? Something like that, right? So it'll be very, very similar, but with a person to person might be a little more personal, because it's, two people are having a conversation, than a company where they can be more corporate, I guess, and more still personal, but not 100% personal, I guess. That makes sense.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. How do you benchmark your reputation against competitors and then turn those insights into actually a clear differentiation?
Well, one thing that we do, and what's awesome, is that when you monitor yourself and your business, but when you monitor competitors, that's where I think the opportunity comes in to potentially go in and reach out to those individuals, right? So if you have somebody that says, oh, I don't like XYZ Airlines, this is an example, right? So, and then maybe I'm Southwest and I'm watching that and saying, hey, Jennifer, sorry that you had a bad experience over at JetBlue. I'm not sponsored by JetBlue or Southwest. I'm just giving examples here. I'm not saying I don't like JetBlue here, but you could go in and say, sorry, you had a bad experience. Hey, take a look at our Black Friday deal. If you ever want to switch airlines, just let us know, right? Because now what you're doing is you're using that as an opportunity to be able to, not only protect your brand, but then also look at other things that are happening with other ones. You can respond to that. That's a little, I'm not going to say it's gutsy. You can do that. People do it all day long. Or you can also look at it as an assessment and get a sentiment for, guess what's going on at the airlines, as an example. Like if tons of people are saying, hey, there's issues with this, and this, then maybe that can be a future marketing thing for us, because we look at this and say, hey, I see that, good old United is charging for baggage and you guys had to pay $50 here at Southwest. We don't charge for that, which is untrue. Southwest does now charge for it. They just started doing that. But my point is that can be a selling point, right? Because now you're saying, people go, oh, an extra $50. I don't want to pay that. And you're like, Southwest, like, we don't charge that. Save $50. Come on over. So it can be used as an opportunity as well.
Okay, great. So I have 5 rapid fire questions. I'd love you to answer them in like a sentence or 2 or 3, but let's get started. So what is the most powerful review platform for B2B right now?
I would have to go with Brand24.
Okay. Yeah. I'm familiar with that. Yep. And then what is the biggest red flag in a brand's search results?
If you see repetition and a lot of people saying the exact same things.
Yeah.
Right. So that's over and over and over. A one-time deal. Hey, box was broken. Okay. But if you see 20 people that say the box was broken or the product came, it was malfunctioned or something like that, then I would say, hey, there's probably an issue there. Just because one person wrote something, that doesn't make it gold, especially on the Amazon platform, because you can do unverified reviews where you haven't even bought the product. So anybody can write a review. In other platforms, they can do that as well. But the idea of that is to take a look at that and say, hey, let me dig a little deeper. You want to go more than just the surface level, because that can be a competitor attacking them. That can be a number of different things. And we can't expect the business to be perfect, but we definitely want to do a little deeper dive there.
Got it. Okay, perfect. And then what is one tool that everybody should definitely use for tracking online reputation? Is there one that's out there, regardless of your B2B, B2C?
Which, like I said, the 2 for me are Mention.com and Brand24. And then, we do have Google Alerts. Like I said, it's still around. It's not quite as robust as these other ones that are looking at settlement and stuff like that. Just depends on what your budget is.
Okay, awesome. And then who should own a reputation management? Is it marketing, PR, the CEO?
If you have a PR company, that's awesome. And really depends on how big your organization is, right? So usually that would be PR because they're the ones that know how to assess that. If you don't have a PR company, then maybe whoever does your social. If it's not who does your social, then you might be a solopreneur. And then guess what? You got to be HR, you got to be the secretary, president, and everything. And you're going to have to respond to those.
Okay, awesome. What is one move that they could do that would instantly strengthen their online reputation, either for their business or for them personally?
Once again, just getting access to those softwares and then having a plan in place, right? Make sure that you're being more prepared. I always tell people, be prepared for things instead of being, I always say being proactive instead of reactive. Reactive is, oh crap, we got to get in a meeting, we got to figure this out, to proactive saying, hey, we've already been trained for this. Like, right, if you have something happens at a local school, guess what? The military, everybody's already been trained for that. They don't go, oh crap, what do we do now? It's the same thing with your business. Go, hey, if these 3 scenarios happen, this is how we would handle those situations. And then you know that if anything does happen, that your team is going to be there. Not to say you don't need to have a meeting about it. The idea is you at least have a plan moving forward.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you, Shane. That's awesome. Thanks so much for your insight regarding reputation management today. That's an area that most businesses, I think, push aside. I'd love for you to share how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so you can go to shanebarker.com. That's just ShaneBarker.com. That is where I have all of my ebooks. Most of them are free. We also have I have a hub, a knowledge hub over there. People can get information about, AI and influencer marketing, the whole nine. And then if you're an Amazon seller and you want to know more about our services, it's just TraceFuse.ai, which is TraceFuse.ai. And I've got a great little trick for you that if you want to get in contact with me personally, it's Shane you can put shanebarker.com or Shane at TraceFuse.ai. I know that's super tricky, but yep, there we go. So then you guys can get in contact with me anytime. If you have any questions about reputation management for your brand, or if you have any questions about Amazon and the review system.
Well, I just want to take a moment and thank our audience today. If you like what you heard, please hit like, share, or subscribe. If you need to connect with me directly, you can go to Linda Fanaras, FANARAS.com, or visit us at mill.agency, MILL.agency, or lastly, just simply connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you for listening in today.